Ever wonder why some businesses just seem to take off and soar while others, well, they just never get off the ground? It really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? And you know what? The answer is usually found in the very first steps they take. So let's dig in and unpack the blueprint for building a business that actually sticks around.
Let's just kick things off with a pretty shocking number. A staggering 91% of small businesses in the US never, ever hit that $1 million mark in revenue. Now, this isn't because people aren't passionate. It's usually because a few crucial ingredients were missing from the recipe.
So, what's the number one culprit? Take a look at this. It's not a bad product. It's not even getting crushed by the competition. A whopping 42% of startups fail for one painfully simple reason. They build something that nobody actually wants.
And that, right there, brings us to our first, and honestly, most critical stage. Before you write a single line of code, before you order any inventory, you have got to close the gap between your brilliant idea and a real, genuine need out there in the market.
You know, this quote from Dan Olson just nails it. It's not about having a product, it's about having a better solution. Your idea has to solve a real person's problem in a way that's way more effective than whatever they're already doing.
So how do you avoid that trap of building something just for yourself? Well, you follow a process. You got to do your homework. That means researching the market, peeking at what your competitors are up to, building a really basic version to test your idea, and then, the most important part, seeing if people are actually willing to pay for it.
Which leads us to one of the most important concepts in the whole startup world, the MVP, or minimum viable product. And here's the thing you have to remember. An MVP isn't just a cheap version of your final product. No, it's a tool that's built for one thing, and one thing only, learning. It's designed to answer the question, should we even be building this at all?
And the story of Zappos is the perfect example of this. Back in 1999, the founder Nick Swinmurn had this kind of crazy idea to sell shoes online. But instead of renting a huge warehouse and buying tons of inventory, he just went to local shoe stores, took pictures, and put them up on a super basic website. When an order came in, he literally ran to the store, bought the shoes, and shipped them himself. He proved his entire business model would work without owning a single pair of shoes. Brilliant, right?
Okay, so you've done the hard work. You've validated your idea. You've proved that people actually want what you're selling. So what's next? Now it's time to actually draw up the blueprint for your journey ahead. A business plan isn't just some boring document you write for investors. Think of it as your roadmap. It forces you to get honest and answer the really tough questions that turn a good idea into a real functioning company. Like, who are you actually selling to? How are you gonna make money? And what could go wrong?
And a really simple but super powerful tool for this is what's called a SWOT analysis. It's just a simple grid that helps you organize your thoughts. What are your internal strengths and weaknesses? And then what are the external opportunities and threats out there in the market? Doing this gives you a full 360-degree view of where you stand. All right, this next one is a biggie, a decision with huge implications down the road, your legal structure. This table from the SBA breaks it down. It affects everything from your personal liability, and yes, that means whether they can take your house if the business fails, all the way to how you pay taxes. Getting this right from the get-go is absolutely critical. So you've got a validated idea and a solid plan. But let's be real, a business isn't a business until you have paying customers. This is where the rubber really meets the road. You just can't be everything to everyone, especially when you're just starting out. This quote here is pure gold because it gets to the heart of it. Niching down is your superpower. When you focus on solving one specific problem for one specific type of customer, your marketing just becomes so much easier and more effective.
And look at the difference this makes. It's night and day, right? The generic pitch is totally forgettable. But that problem-solution pitch, it's specific, it's relevant, and it immediately shows how you can help. It basically says, hey, I get it. I've done my homework, and I understand your world.
Look, there's no one-size-fits-all magic bullet for reaching out to people. As you can see here, the right approach really depends on your business. If you're solving a super clear problem, lead with that. If you've got amazing success stories, lead with that social proof. The key is to be strategic and to always put yourself in your prospect's shoes.
Now, even with a great idea and customers who are paying you, a lot of businesses still manage to fail. So let's talk about the hidden traps, the costly mistakes that can bring a really promising company to a screeching halt.
Hey, remember that chart from the beginning? Let's zoom in on the second biggest reason startups fail. Almost a third of them don't fail because of their product, they fail because they just run out of cash. It's that simple and that brutal.
And the thing is, running out of cash isn't usually a surprise attack. It's caused by these silent killers, clients who pay late, spending way too much on things like rent, not having a safety net, or just not keeping a close eye on the books. It's the boring operational stuff that often makes or breaks a company.
This chart really paints a picture of how fast it can happen. You might start with a healthy chunk of cash, but if you're not careful, you can burn through it in just a couple of quarters. And once you dip below that 3 to 6 month safety buffer, every single decision starts to feel like a crisis.
And it's not just about the money either. Legal mistakes can be just as deadly. Things like not protecting your brand or your ideas, not having solid contracts in place, or picking the wrong business structure early on, these can create messes that are basically impossible to clean up down the road.
So, after navigating all these challenges and all these potential pitfalls, what does the path to success actually look like? Well, it's less about having a perfect launch and a lot more about having the right mindset for the journey.
You know, Bill Gates really said it best. It's great to celebrate your wins, for sure, but it's way more important to pay attention to the lessons that come from failure. Every misstep, every failed experiment, every customer that says no, it's all just data. Success isn't about avoiding failure. It's about learning from it faster than your competition.
And if you remember one thing from all this, let it be this. Building a business isn't a straight line from A to B. It's a constant loop. It's build, measure, learn. You have your big vision, of course, but you're constantly testing your assumptions against reality, and you're adapting as you go. So I want to leave you with one final and really important question to ask yourself. Whether you've just got a flicker of an idea or you have a business that's already growing, ask yourself this. What is the single biggest, riskiest assumption I am making right now? And what's the absolute cheapest and fastest way I can test it? Answering that question is your first step to winning.